In this episode, we're gonna see how to run a DecBC or ZooBC node on a Raspberry Pi. And to do this, we need a little bit of, work. We have this item here, which is a classic kit for Raspberry Pi. This is a Raspberry Pi 3, nothing super. And we can see how we can then set up a node for a blockchain from DecBC or ZooBC in a Raspberry Pi. Let's see what there is inside this box. Okay, this box first of all has an HDMI cable, which is necessary to connect the Raspberry Pi to a video. We're gonna video capture what happened in the Raspberry Pi later. I guess some color-coded things to do some electronic with the Raspberry Pi. We have the power adapter. Let's open this thing. Power adapter with this American format, but we have adapters here. We put it here for a moment. And then we have what we have here. A box. This is a box where we can insert the Raspberry Pi. So cute, with a small Raspberry on the top. So this box opens and the Raspberry Pi can go inside. We're gonna see this soon. We have the Raspberry Pi 3, and that's quite important. Okay, this is the box. This is the hard drive. It's a microSD card that acts as the drive of the computer. Inside here there is the computer. The computer has 4 USB port, network connection. The power, this is audio set, I guess. This is the HDMI, and this is the power supply. I don't see where to put the SD card though. Interesting. Oh, here it is. The SD card is gonna go inside here. And in fact, what we're gonna do is not to use this card, but to prepare a card that has just a command line interface Linux version. This is important because to run the node, we don't need all the UI. There are other things to keep the processor low temperature. I'm gonna stick this on the Raspberry Pi soon as well. Then there is an adapter to read the SD card in the USB of the computer, and a small quick start booklet. Alright, this is very interesting. I move this on the side here, and let's get to business in putting together this Raspberry Pi. I'm sure that the bottom part is gonna open as well, and in fact here it is, open. We take this, we put the cooling part in case we want to overclock this Raspberry Pi in the processors. The processors are 1 and 2. So we put this in there. The sticker is coming out slowly, and here we go. The small one, which is more complex, is already set, and the bigger one is gonna be set in a second. Alright, and there is really the paste to transpose heat into the cooling part. That's very nice. Now here we need to match the part that are open. Here is for the microSD card, is for the USBs, Okay, it fits perfectly. And to this we need to then close the top part with the different part. Alright, went in with no issue. Super. Okay, we have the cover, and we can close this properly. I think close in this direction, and our machine is ready. So we need to just connect the power supply. We connect this, we connect a keyboard and a mouse, and we're going to see how we install the node and how we set up the Raspberry Pi properly. Before we do this, there is a little bit another point that I want to show you is how to prepare the operating system for the Raspberry Pi. Here is the computer, and let's see if I can help you from the bottom to the screen to see what is to be done. First of all, let's open the browser, and we can search Raspberry Pi Imager, and here is the Raspberry Pi Imager, the new imaging utility. With this, we can create the SD card with whatever operating system we need. I have a macOS, so I'm gonna download it for macOS, but there is also for Windows and for Ubuntu. Let's get the file downloaded on my computer. Let's look at the file. We don't need the browser anymore. Let's launch the file, and here we simply copy the file into the applications, and the Raspberry Pi Imager has been installed. We go to application, and it can be found immediately because of the logo Raspberry Pi. We open the application, and we see that the Raspberry Pi Imager is ready to work. We need to choose the OS, and this is important. We go in Raspberry Pi OS Other, and there is Raspberry Pi Lite. This is the command line interface only application. Then we need to choose the storage. We need to take the microSD card and put it in an adapter to be read by the computer. We insert the microSD in the computer with an adapter, and we go to choose the storage. We find it here, and then we simply press the right button. And at this point, it takes a little bit of time, but the Raspberry Pi Imager creates the image on the microSD card. It's interesting to see how such a small object is a big computer, something that 20 years ago would have taken quite a size and quite a fan to keep cool. And now, in such a small space, we are running a PC. And this is just cheap, it's not powerful. At the same size or even smaller, there are a lot of other interesting one single device in a single card, and we're going to explore this more in future videos, because one special set of hardware is going to be used to make a special node for our blockchain. here we are. The SD card has been finished being written and now is getting verified. And now has been finished being verified. And we are informed that we can now remove the USB with the microSD card. Let's pay attention, remove it before pressing continue, because then it's going to be mounted in the computer and then you need to eject it. I remove it and it's here with me, and here I press continue and the operation is finished, is ready to do another card. Now let's look at what we have here. And we have this USB that has the micro SD inside, so I can extract here the micro SD from the USB, and this micro SD need to go inside the Raspberry Pi in this opening that there is on the back, facing up. And in this way, once we boot the Raspberry Pi, we are booting into the operating system of the Raspberry Pi. There are very interesting settings which are very different from the virtual private server that need to be done in a Raspberry Pi to run our node. But for this tutorial is all. We saw how to set up the Raspberry Pi, put it together, and then how to create the image with the command line interface only operating system in the Raspberry Pi. In the next episode, we're gonna take the power supply, connect the Raspberry Pi with the monitor, keyboard, and mouse. No, we don't need the mouse actually, monitor and keyboard only. And then we're gonna see how to do the full setup to install the ZooBC or DecBC node. Thank you for watching. My name is Roberto Capodieci, and I'm gonna see you at the next tutorial.